Hey folks, welcome back to Midlife Crits. This is Cornell Crits. I am here today with Chris King, and we're going to be talking about 30XX, the much anticipated sequel to 20XX. And as a big fan of the Mega Man X series, I want to thank you, Chris, for taking time to talk to me about this and showing this game off to us today.
Oh, of course. Likewise. Thanks for your time.
All right. So, from what I understand, there are two characters you have. There's Ace and Nina.
Ace and Nina, that's right. So okay. Ace, red robot with a sword arm. Nina, blue robot with a gun arm.
Awesome. And from what I was seeing, for Ace, you have different special techniques that will be unlocked as you play the game.
That's right. So he always begins with a technique called Unleash Blade, which is a special move based on what his current primary equipped weapon is. So he always starts the game with it, and if he switches, say, for his saber, he throws this little boomerang, and if he switches over to the Tanbakiri spear weapon, instead he'll throw a spear in front of him that will stick in walls, and he can use it as kind of a thin fall-through platform.
Nice. And
then he finds other techniques every time he beats a boss.
That's awesome. And with Ace, his combination system that we're going to be seeing, is that going to be with a standard button input, or we're going to be seeing more of a hybrid of like a fighter game input with him?
It's a little bit of both. So no, there aren't any really complicated inputs for his moves. All of them are bound to. So he has three kind of power buttons that are bound to the keyboard of the controller. So by default on a controller, they're Y, left trigger and left bumper. But for Ace, he has three different techniques that can fit in each of those slots, and one of them is activated sort of like a neutral, just you press Y, and then the other two are up Y and down Y, kind of like a Smash Brothers, neutral B, up B, down B kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Except for all of his powers. So he gets 8 techniques from the 8 bosses, and he starts with Unleash Blade, giving him a total of 9.
That's really cool. And will we be seeing we're going to have a non-linear progression with choosing different bosses at different times, or is it going to be a linear narrative progression?
Yeah, so 30XX's arcade mode, the sort of traditional way to play the game, feels a lot like 20XX's does. So you're always going to start with one random stage out of 8, and every time you finish a stage, you're going to go on to your choice of 3 next stages. So you won't have full control. But you'll be able to choose somewhat which stage you go to next. So you'll be able to plan kind of, which of the 3 stages being presented to me sort of fits my current build the best, which one am I most well equipped to handle now, and which one, do I maybe want to think about putting off until a little bit later in the run. We just announced a new way to play 30XX last week that we're calling Mega Mode. And in Mega Mode, you're going to generate the entire run of the game up front. So you start Mega Mode, it generates all the levels for you immediately. It assigns all of the levels an easy, medium, or hard difficulty. But from that point, you can basically play through them in whatever order you like.
Nice.
So in Mega Mode, you do kind of have the ability, there we go, to pick sort of your stage order and to have a little more control over which one you go to next. Mega Mode is basically a way to enjoy 30XX with no permanent death, and where stages stay the same until you beat them.
Very nice. Now, you just said permadeath. That's going to be a major feature with the normal playthrough.
Right. Yeah, in arcade mode, sort of the standard, we're still kind of figuring out what to call it. Is it standard mode? Is it arcade mode? We don't really know yet. But it's not Mega Mode, and in standard mode, it plays basically the same way. Sort of game progression is very similar to the way it's handled in 20XX, where there is permadeath. You start a run, you'll start on a randomly chosen level 1 out of 8, and when you die, you'll go back to HQ. That run will end, but you'll be able to spend whatever meta currency you found, these Memoria tokens you can find as you go through the game, to purchase more upgrades that will apply to your future runs.
Nice. I like that. Now, with the bosses, in kind of the going back since towards the Mega series, are we going to see like certain bosses' abilities will be stronger against other bosses, or is that not going to play into the...
Yeah, you're referring to the weakness cycle concept that most Mega Man games use, and we also use in 20XX. I'm not 100% sure which way we're going to go there yet. It's probably not going to be a perfect cycle, and part of the reason for that is, well, A, Both Ace and Nina do have different weapon sets this time around. So if there were a cycle, it would kind of be 2 cycles, right? Since each character would kind of have his own unique skill set.
Yeah.
But also we want 30XX to be the kind of game that we can continue to support long term. So we're gonna go to early access. We're gonna have the game in early access for some period of time, probably something like a year, but could be a little more, could be a little less. And then we really want to support the game after 1.0 for as long as we're able to, really. And part of that probably means new stage themes, new boss types, new powers for each character. And as soon as we start talking about a hard and fast cycle, we kind of lose the ability to do that gracefully, because you can imagine a scenario where we build in a full weakness cycle for the 8 bosses we're planning on having there at 1.0, right? But as soon as we've done that, let's say now we want to add stage 9. What do we do? Do we shift the cycle? Do we change some of the weaknesses to make room for the 9th power? Do we just have the 9th weapon just not participate and kind of be an auxiliary? We're not really sure. But we don't want to stick to the firm 8 for pretty much that reason.
Makes perfect sense. And actually makes me really, really excited to see the further support with the game. Now, I was seeing that Nina has a fusion system to her. Can you go into that a little bit for me?
Yeah, of course. So they're both characters have major differences from the way they handle in 20XX. So in 20XX, the 2 characters, Ace and Nina, the 2 main characters, 2 starting characters, I should say, are sort of primarily defined by their basic weapons. So all of Nina's weapons, all of her primary weapons are ranged. They're all buster shots that go ways. And Ace's weapons are all melees. They all kind of extend from his body and don't go terribly far. In 30XX, in addition, they also have entirely different sets of boss powers they receive. So as we described a little bit above, Ace has 9 different techniques that he gains access to over the course of the game, right? And so here's an example of what I was talking about with Unleashed Blade. So I'm going to swap for this Lucavi, the kunai, and then as I start shooting, I'm going to throw a medium range kunai that gets less accurate the more I spam it. And the Unleashed Blade, instead of being a throw, is a close range set of slashes.
That's awesome.
But Nina, in addition to having her 8 boss powers, similar to 20XX Nina, can also combine any pair of those powers. She can use any one of her powers as a supporting power for one of the other ones. So an example of this is from Echo Cave. Nina gets the Crystal Wave power, which fires a horizontal wave that deals very, very little damage. I think it does 1 damage, but any enemy it hits, it will freeze in a purple crystal block. And while they're frozen, they take bonus damage from attacks, and the player can use them as platforms. You can jump off of them.
Oh, nice.
So you can wall kick off of them. Yeah, you can use them to sort of cross big gaps, stuff like that. And the aiming gear power that Nina gets from the Clock Zone boss, which is also in this demo, will allow Nina to shoot kind of an 8-directional blade. It's kind of like a metal blade from Mega Man 2, except it's nowhere near as wildly overpowered. And it also slides along walls, so if you fire it at a wall instead of breaking, it will sort of go along the wall that it hit. It will maintain however much of its velocity it can as it goes along the wall. But you can combine those 2 powers. So if basically every 30XX power has a support keyword that sort of describes what it's going to do if you use it as a support for another power. So if you take Crystal Wave, which normally fires only a horizontal wave, and you combine it with the aiming gear, all of a sudden you have a version of the Crystal Wave that you can fire in all 8 directions.
Oh, wow.
And so most of the things that you can use, so anytime you use aiming gear as a support, you can feel pretty sure that it's going to somehow make the other power you're using more versatile, more aimable. And similarly, if you apply Crystal Wave, which normally freezes enemies as a support, you'll find that you have weapons that fire like the other weapons, but also freeze enemies, or also, some of them will leave behind ice blocks when an enemy is defeated by the weapon and stuff like that. So not only does Nina have her 8 weapons, but she can use the other 7 weapons at her disposal as support powers. So she really has like 64 unique combinations.
Jeez, that gives a lot of replayability to it, and a lot of...
Yeah, we're really hoping it leaves a lot of room for player exploration, for people to have reasons to sort of mess with all the different combos and sort of see what they like.
Yeah, it definitely catches my attention on the game and what I want to see it be able to do as we move forward. Let's say we have a boss battle here.
Good to hear. Yep, some coming up on Echo Beast here. He's the boss of Echo Cave in our demo here. And it is, it's relatively straightforward for demo stuff. So he's going to roll around the room. He's going to throw these 2 little yellow bouncy bits that are never going to go away. So they're kind of a persistent hazard I have to avoid. And the longer the fight goes on, the more of those he's going to make. It's capped at 4, so it's not like he's going to make a whole ton of them or anything. But if you fight him later in the game, he'll probably will be a little bit DPS checky in that respect, and sort of force you to try and prioritize aggressive play. Because if you take too long, it'll eventually have so many of them out that they'll become impossible to dodge.
Fair enough. I like that though. That there's going to be checks put into place for when you find him in later iterations.
Right, yeah, every boss gets a little spicier or milder depending on where you battle them in the run.
Gotcha. That's good. I like that.
Right.
Oh, well
I'm
done.
sliding a little bit because I got hit right as the boss died. That's kind of neat.
That is neat. That's a neat little animation quirk.
So I'll pick up that Potentia, which is used as it's like a meta upgrade currency. So now when I go back to HQ, either when I die or when I finish it, I'll get to spend a little currency on some permanent upgrades that'll apply to future runs. And you see I picked up the Raijin Call there.
Yeah.
Normally this comes from High Vault, our Sky theme. But in this demo, the weapon that normally comes from Echo Cave is called Echo Shell, which is a super useful defensive power for Ace that lets him reflect enemy projectiles, but it's a little bit less spicy in the demo. And Raijin Call is just plain more fun when you're first getting used to the game, so we sort of swapped which weapons you get here.
Very cool.
And you can see I'm moving to stage 2, our Clock Zone theme.
Oh, this is bringing back nightmarish memories of the clock tower in Castlevania 3.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, you guys have made this is beautiful looking, and
Thank you so much.
I have to say I'm really stoked with what I see with it. Now, there's of course going to be couch co-op, and we're going to have online co-op as well.
That's right, yeah. So 20XX, our first game, supports local and online co-op, 1 to 2 players for pretty much all of the game's modes. And the plan is to do exactly the same thing in 30XX. That's part of 20XX. We feel like we kind of got right the first time.
Awesome. And are we going to see anything like not so much bonus features, but as in bonus modes like a boss rush and stuff like that?
Yeah, so Rush Job, the boss rush from 20XX will definitely be making a return. We know a lot of our players really like that feature, so we'll definitely be bringing that back. We also have Seed Racer, which is a seeded mode where you can sort of set the RNG seed before you play the game. So if you have a set of levels you really enjoy, you can play those levels again, or you can share them with a friend, and they can play them again. It also lets you do stuff like, if you have a couple of friends and you want to sort of race on stream or just race outside of stream, you can each set the game to the same seed and then see who can get through it the fastest, stuff like that. In addition to all of that, we just recently introduced, and stop me if we've already talked about this, but I don't think we have. We introduced what we're calling Mega Mode, which lets you play through the game without permanent death. We did talk about that already? Good.
Yeah, we did.
All right, yeah, so that's new to 30XX, so that'll definitely be
awesome.
Another way that people engage and enjoy the game.
Now, you mentioned streaming. Any thoughts on Twitch integration or working with a app developer like Crowd Control?
We love Crowd Control. So if any of you guys on that team are listening to this, hello again. And yes, we would love to work on that at some point. We don't have any firm plans for that, but I imagine that is something we will work on over time.
That's awesome.
We'd love to do Crowd Control. I really like just for viewer engagement. So I've been watching a little bit of Magic Arena lately, and I've noticed that some streamers have an extension that lets you can hover any part of the board and you can see what all the cards they're holding do and what all the cards in the battlefield do. Because I haven't played Magic in a couple of years now, and so I'm very familiar with the game, but I'm not familiar with recent sets. So just being able to tune in and sort of I can see what a streamer is playing. I can look at his or her deck and get a good feel for kind of what they're up to, what their opponent's game plan is, and sort of get a much better sense without the streamer having to explain everything. Someone was telling me recently there's also do you know the game Risk of Rain or Risk of Rain 2?
I know it, but I haven't gotten to play it myself yet.
It's sort of I guess the second one is more of a co-op friendly FPS roguelike.
Yeah.
It's basically the first game but in 3D, so it plays like an FPS roguelike. And there are extensions for that on Twitch that let you, so they display the characters' items that they have in their build at all times, and you can hover over them to see what they do. So basically, if you tune in the middle of a stream, because Risk of Rain 2 is very item salad. Your character gets a lot of items over the course of a playthrough. Yeah. And so it lets your audience really easily engage with it and see kind of what they're doing at a glance, which I think is really helpful, and I'd love to have something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been using Crowd Control for a number of different games. Right now I'm using it a lot with Skyrim.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I used it with Symphony of the Night, which was a lot of fun. So
I would love to be the person playing for a controlled Symphony of the Night. That sounds like a tremendous amount of fun.
It was. And yeah, and seeing this, I'm like, there's a lot of possibilities for it. A lot of fun, a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah, no, we would absolutely love to do that. So if you happen to be the developer of one of these apps and you're listening to this, get in touch.
Well, I will definitely be tagging them in this once I get this all edited together.
Yeah, I love it.
But no, Lethal Tempo. This is cool. Oh wow, so it's a kind of reminds
units.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a Contra boss a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. So all of our bosses, sort of our goal from a boss design perspective is, one, all bosses should have some kind of player choice involved in how they deal with the boss. And two, there should be something, unique about each encounter that sort of sets it apart from other encounters available in the game. And so the two ways we accomplish that with Lethal Tempo, one, these four faces, they all have their own unique health bars, you can see on the right. And as I destroy one, that face will stop shooting, but the attacks from the other three faces will get a little bit spicier. So the player kind of has the choice of, well, do I want to kill everyone but one and then deal with? So I'll show off one of the weird ways to do the boss. So if I kill everything but the top face, just because of the mechanics of a 2D platformer, the top face is the hardest one for me to get to and for me to hit, right?
Yeah.
So a player, the first time they come at it, might think, oh, I'm gonna destroy, just the three I can hit. I'm just gonna do as much damage as I can. But now the boss is using all four of those moves only on the one face.
Oh,
and
no.
all of the moves are doing way more stuff and way more projectiles. And it's definitely possible for me to get up there and finish it, especially because I have the power from the last stage that lets me call the lightning from above.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of underprepared, under-equipped for it, that can get really spicy really fast.
Oh.
So the player can either choose to kind of, ideally the player kind of whittles down the bosses to low health and then tries to finish them all off at once, so to avoid kind of the unpredictable scaling up. So the boss has four faces, which is unique, and the player sort of wants to deal with those faces in a unique order, or in a specific order for strategic purposes, which is also kind of unique to that fight. And so when I beat that boss, Ace gets the Dolomite link. You can see it's actually equipped here on my menu. And when I hit an enemy with this, so the demo's going to end here, and I'm not going to get to show it off. But Ace will pull himself to an enemy and sort of bounce off their head. So it's kind of like a big mobility technique.
Yeah, that could be good for crossing terrain too.
Bingo, exactly. It's great for making huge jumps. It also disables touch damage for Ace with that enemy for a moment, so it lets you get to the other side of a difficult enemy, for example. If there's an enemy with like a powerful frontal attack, instead of having to sort of like skook around his attacks from way out in front of him, you can wait for his attack tail to start, Dolomite link him to get to the other side, and then take him out from the other side while he's recovering. That's
awesome. That's really cool. I like that. Could also be a good way to get around an enemy who has a large frontal shield or something like that.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of a quick overview of the demo, just the two Echo Cave and Clockstone stages that we've got in the demo this time around. Those are two of the game's, 8 full-on unique stages. So in 20XX, there are only 4 unique stage types that you have to play through twice in a run because there are 2 different bosses that will use that stage theme. So for example, the turret boss and the rollster boss in 20XX both use the Agnesort Flame Lab tile set theme. But in 30XX, each boss has its own entirely unique, distinct theme. So there's no more sharing, and you'll play through 8 different, completely unique stage types every time you play through a run of the game. That's
great. And I have to say, getting a detailed look at it like that with someone who's experienced with the game playing it, I want to get my hands on it as soon as I can. I played a little bit of the alpha build, and it's really good. I liked it.
Thank you. It means a tremendous amount. It's good to know we're on the right course.
I can't wait to share it with my community. Hopefully keep working with you guys on covering content and updates and everything as we go. And yeah, I'm stoked for this. I have one question I'm asking everyone I'm interviewing here at PAX Online.
Yeah,
if you had to name one title that inspired you to get into game creation, what was it?
Ooh, man, one title that inspired me to get into game creation. So I'm going to answer this. I'm going to cheat and answer your question twice. So the first answer is the game that has the most direct influence on 30XX, which is unsurprisingly Mega Man X4. But that's kind of a boring answer that everybody expects. So to come back around to it, the game that really inspired me to get into game creation, because it really goes way back. I've wanted to make video games in some fashion or form since I was a little boy. So I'm 34 now. And I have had this aspiration since I was, 5 or so. And I don't know what about it inspired me to. It's not that I was inspired specifically about the creation aspect, but there was a game for the original Nintendo called The Guardian Legend, and it is a hybrid kind of, you know, Zelda-like square room-based dungeon crawler plus a top-down shoot 'em up. And it would sort of alternate between the two, and the powers your characters would get would sort of apply to both halves of the game and kind of have different effects based on which half you're in. And the game was just so incredible to little me growing up that it made me think, you know, maybe I can give somebody else this kind of experience, this kind of feeling, playing something that I've made someday. And so I would sort of plant the Guardian Legend flag down in the sand as the place that I really became super interested in game development.
That's great. And, you know, I think I've seen footage of that game, but I don't think I ever got my hands on it personally growing up. I'm only a couple years older than you, so we're right there in that same generation. So
yeah, when it first came out, I was too young to, you know, I did eventually finish the game on my own. I think I got it maybe when I was 4 and finished it something like when I was 5. But there was always there was a relatively early game boss. It was like, I think there were 10 areas, each of which had 2 of these sort of corridor shoot 'em up sections. And the boss of corridor 3, which is technically like the 6th one you'd play through over the course of the game, was this terrible giant blue eyeball boss that was way overtuned. Like, as a designer, from, you know, with my retrospective view here, I know that boss was poorly tuned for where it shows up in the game. It's a huge difficulty spike that any modern player would say, like, what the hell is this shit?
Yeah.
My language.
No, you're fine.
But at the time, it was such sort of a pivotal moment for me, because when I first started playing the game, I couldn't actually finish it. I was like 4, and I had to have my oldest brother take it out for me. And so having him like beat this stage was like such an awe-striking moment for me. Like, oh, he can do the thing. He's amazing. And then getting to play through most of the rest of the game myself, and eventually coming back later and beating the boss on my own, just huge sort of gaming hooks for me. You know, they planted those seeds of games can give us these incredible tense experiences that not much else can.
That's great. And, you know, I love hearing these stories. That's fantastic. Lastly, you know, where can everyone find you guys? Where can we keep track of news on the game? And
thank you for asking this question. Yep. I always forget.
And also, what the projected release date is, and what platforms can we look forward to it on?
Yeah, let's do it. So, Twitter, we're Batterystaple _G. It's a Batterystaple _G because I am very bad at social media. Following us there is the best way to get sort of updates on upcoming early access. We're going to run a closed beta, so it's the best way to hear about that if you want news about that. We're on Discord at discord.gg/20xx. The 20xx and 30xx communities naturally share a server, so we just left the vanity link at 20xx. If you want to follow anything about us or the game, those are the best ways to do it. Of course, you can wishlist the game on Steam right now. It's 30xx on Steam. You can search it up. You can also go to bit.ly/get30xx. I think the XX have to be capitalized, so, you know, maybe just search for 30xx on Steam. Let's see, other big things. Release dates. We're probably shipping early access early next year. We haven't hit an exact date yet, so it's not a promise. We've been telling people it's like 70% likely to happen by spring, and we still think that's true. And then early access will be probably something like a year, or rather 1.0. Will probably be something like a year after that, so we'll probably spend about a year in early access. A lot of that depends so much on exactly how early access goes. You know, we don't know for sure how much work we're going to sort of add to our plate during early access until we get there. You know, our community feedback and community input onto the sort of the work process for the game is such a critical part of why we were able to make 20xx good. And so we know there's going to be a lot of iteration on all of kind of the crazy new systems we're developing for the new game. And we know we have kind of a pretty full plate in front of us. But until we actually get to early access, get it in front of all of our fans, we don't know quite how full that plate will be.
Awesome. Well, I want to say again, Chris, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about this game. I really hope I can continue working with you guys on covering this. This is fantastic. I love how it looks. I hope so too.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you this afternoon.
Thank you. All right, folks. That's going to do it for us today here on Midlife Crits. Again, I am Cornell Crits. We were speaking with Chris King about 30xx. Check this game out. Wishlisted on Steam. And as I always say, see you next time on the couch.